I don't know if I'm live. Having trouble connecting. All
It's
right,
live.
there we go. Welcome back to episode number 70. Boys, we hit the 70 mark of Raise the Banner podcast. I'm one of your three co-hosts as usual, Mac Couture, Zach Brewitt. Benny Ballgame is back to Benny Ballgame, not just Ben Durth. And of course, our special guest today, Lucy Burdge. How you doing, Lucy?
I'm doing great, you guys. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to talk about the Red Sox, which has not been the case. I mean, it's been the case for the past few years. I'm always happy to talk about the Red Sox, but the vibes seem very, very high. So I'm very happy now to be doing so.
Yeah, for the first time in, I don't know, maybe since 2019, post championship, it was a level of
2021
optimism.
Yeah. Well, how about them Sox? Yeah. 2021 ALCS might have been the last time. It was like, yeah.
Hey, that's where we'll start. Obviously we haven't really jumped too much into the Sox with all the Patriots free agency and all that nonsense that we really haven't even jumped in post free agency. But Lucy, what's your overall vibe of this season? I know we just talked before we went on about how you're feeling, but what's your overall kind of sense of how things are heading into the season?
Yeah, I would say 1,000,000 out of 10 are the vibes right now. Starting with Bregman being signed, I think that really changed a lot of things in terms of like, oh, they actually want to spend money now. And John Henry's smoking cigars about this. This is very exciting. So he is the boy who's going to be okay. This is what the team is. We are going to be okay. And Alex Cora is saying, Bregman is brought, he plays in October. He said, I'm not going to say we're going to win the World Series, but I will say that. I will say that for Alex Cora. They are going to win the World Series this year. That is how high the vibes are. So this is very, very exciting. I think that's how, I mean, you can't really go further than that. So, parade. That is where it's all going to culminate this year is Duck Boat Parade. So you can't get better than that. So that's where the vibes are right now.
Just
warm Zach, Ben, where are you feeling on this?
I was gonna say warm the duck boats up tomorrow.
Yep. That's where we are.
I'm in a good spot. It's nice to have baseball back. The weather's warm. So we're certainly turning the page to better days, and Fenway being open and hot dogs and a beer without having to mortgage your house, hopefully. But I mean, vibes are high. Excited. Opening day is going to be buzzing. They have a legit ace who's going to be towing the rubber. He won't be in the home opener. As things currently stand, assuming we don't have any injuries, I believe Walker Buehler should be towing the rubber for the home opener, which is probably a 1B to Garrett Crochet's 1A. If you were going to see anybody on opening day, you would want it to be one of those two guys. Obviously, offense should be a lot better. Could see a young guy or two on the roster. Feels like Kristen Campbell is being given every possible opportunity to win the job at second base. Ceiling is super high. Sky's the limit with him. Made a nice defensive play the other day. But hopefully he can swing the bat well for them. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting. The young guys, I was talking to a buddy of mine a couple hours ago. It's like the young guys are finally here. We've been hearing about these guys for 2 or 3 years at this point. So it's nice that they're finally here, knocking on the door. One of them probably very well could be your opening day second baseman. Super excited to spend some money at Fenway this year, which I haven't done in a couple of years because I haven't felt it was worth it.
He's been boycotting the Red Sox. Zach, how about you?
I mean, vibes are equally as high. I mean, not equally as high as Lucy. I think maybe a 500K out of 10, a million out of 10 is certainly high. But yeah, I mean, look, I came on here, whatever it was last time, and notoriously been pretty negative towards the Sox over the past couple of years, especially Lucy, you were just talking about, before we started. Since 2021, the ALCS, right, things have been really just kind of bleak around here. And for the first time, it feels like, John Henry showed up. He woke up out of bed and decided this is the year he wants to spend, whatever it was. So yeah, vibes are high. Little murky with the Devers stuff at the beginning. That ship seems to have been righted so far. Kind of feels like Bregman is probably going to be at third. I don't know that I've even really seen him at second base, which tells me that maybe there's a more of a DH and kind of Devers has come around to doing that more than he stated. But yeah, vibes are high. Like I said, I came on here before and said notoriously negative towards them. So this year I'm super excited, as Ben said. Weather's getting better. Excited to spend $200. He's getting drinks and hot dogs and still feeling hungry when you go home. But overall, really hard to find anything to be upset about with this offseason so far.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's tough to not get too excited because of what has happened the last 4 or 5 years here. But I guess it's in part my love for Bloom and seeing these young guys come up and him getting the shine that he deserves. Ben, don't shake your head at me. Even Mikey Romero is going to break out this year. And you watch, I'm going to be insufferable. Absolutely insufferable if he breaks up this year. But, going into that, what it will take to be a successful Red Sox season. Lucy, you could start us off. Who do you think, if you had to pick someone to be the biggest surprise this year, someone that is the expectations isn't fully there, that could come out and be kind of the biggest, bonus to this current roster?
Yeah, well, I would say Tristan Casas. I don't know what the expectations really are for him. I mean, he's already played a season, so it's like, are the expectations low? I feel like they're always low for him though, because people do not like him. So I would say him. But is it really that much of a surprise because he's the face of the documentary? He's like the whole thing. But Christian Campbell, I mean, I think Christian Campbell, if given the opportunity, which I think he will have the opportunity at second, I think he will be on the opening day roster. He should be on the opening day roster. I think he will surprise in the effect that we haven't seen anything from him on a major league level. So I think he will come through this season. And I think for this to be a successful season for them, they have to make the playoffs, because I think anything less than making the playoffs is a failure. And I think that's the kind of a fact at this point. But I think, get to the World Series at least would be a successful season for them. But if they don't make the playoffs, failure of a season.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Ben, Zach?
I was going to say, to piggyback off that, I was talking to a buddy of mine, a couple hours ago, about how there's no clear-cut favorite in the American League, let alone in the AL East. I know people are kind of writing off the Yankees because Garrett Cole's had got Tommy John. He's done for the year. But, I mean, on paper, they still should be good. The lineup is old. I get that. But, no slight to Yankee Stadium. It's a Little League.
Part of it's Gill's not also out for like 2 months. And then
the back end of the
has his elbow injury, too. Elbows injury.
Yeah, who's the guy that's got the shoulder? Schmidt? Is it Schmidt that?
Yeah, Clark Schmidt.
Up with shoulder.
Yeah. And Carlos Carrasco, who may or may not factor in, he's also injured. But yeah, so definitely some issues with the back end of the bullpen. But like the lineup should still hit. The bottom of the lineup certainly has some question marks. Although what lineup other than LA's doesn't have question marks at the bottom of their lineup? But there's no clear.
Hey, Mookie's going to be on the IL to start the year. Clearly, the Red Sox won that
long.
trade.
Bring him
well,
back.
Okay. I have a conspiracy theory about this. Did Mookie Betts get sick in Japan and they're trying to kind of bury that? So, because he did travel with them, but they said it's before he traveled, but they want to keep international play. So, if a player is getting sick and it's Mookie Betts, then people are going to be outcry for, don't travel then because players are sick. It's like the Patriots when they went to Mexico and they all came back sick. Like people will be like, you don't want to get a conspiracy. So I think Mookie Betts will not be out for long, though.
Fair enough.
Makes sense.
So I think to reiterate your point, Lucy, I think it's playoffs or bust. I know people want to write off the Yankees. I think that rightfully so, they should be the favorite to win the division. But if the Red Sox have a healthy season, there's no reason they can't be a low 90s win team that wins the AL East and can make a run in the postseason. All the heavy hitters are in the National League, which obviously we're going to see on a limited basis this year because they don't cross leagues very often. So I think the door's wide open for them as long as they stay healthy. I think Fangraphs gives them about almost a 56% chance of making the playoffs, which feels a little low. But they certainly have the offense, and with health, I think that they should absolutely be, at a bare minimum, the top wild card team or a top wild card team. I don't think this is a team that's going to be, oh, hey, if they get hot in the last week, they're only a game out chasing a, Seattle team. I think they're going to be the team pacing, the wild card and threatening for a division. And then, like they say, just get in and see what happens. But I'm in the same boat. It's playoffs or bust, especially given the nature and the dynamic of it's pretty wide open in the AL this year.
Yeah, the additions you made should certainly get you over that 90 win mark, and especially into the playoffs. I think there's really no debate on if this team is a playoff team. Like, they 100% should be, and if they don't, it's an epic failure. And the thing that I probably am most interested to watch is every season it feels like August is just the teams can't figure it out. I don't know if it's like post All-Star break woes or whatever, but they for some reason they can't post a winning record in August. Bregman and Buehler, two guys who have been around, they've won. Obviously, Buehler won last year, so they know what it takes. Right, this is a relatively young team outside of Devers, coming over from last year, and then you add on Bregman and Buehler, so they should definitely have some experience in terms of like what to do to not get that fatigue, if you will. But yeah, I agree. I think it's 100% a playoff or bust year for them. Might be predating myself in terms of this your take, but I am opposite of Ben. I am kind of writing off the Yankees at this point. I might be saying that the Red Sox will be winning the AL East, but I'll get more into that when it comes to your take.
All right, yeah. I mean, that's kind of where we could start off with one of the over-unders, and it's over-under 86.5 wins. That's what the sportsbook seems to be, hovering around. Zach, I know you just said that you expect 90 plus. Ben is pointing up. Lucy, are you the same boat? Are you going over 86.5?
I would go over 100, you guys. 110. No. I would
110 and 60.
160. Maybe they 62? Lose 2 games. They might lose 2. Maybe
they tie.
They just an undefeated season. No, I think absolutely over 90 games. They will not be mid. They will certainly be above mid this year. They will win more than 81 games. But I think they win more than 90, more than 91 games this year. So I see great expectations for the Red Sox this year. So I would definitely go over 86 wins, and I would go also over 90 wins. I say they win 92 games this year.
All right. I mean, 92 games, I'll give them an opportunity at the division, if not probably the number one wild card spot.
To win the division.
Yeah, that's pretty good odds. I don't want to say the odds for them to win the division was
I could
340.
I could tell you.
I was gonna say on DraftKings they're a plus 350. I saw that earlier today.
Where are they on BetMGM?
Yes, at BetMGM it's plus 260. And if you are writing off the Yankees to not win the division, but to come in second in the division, you can get that exact order. Red Sox to win the division, then Yankees in second at BetMGM. You can get that at plus 600. So that is an option as well.
I like that.
Something.
It's not too bad. Yeah. Biggest X factor for this team. Last year I picked Trevor Story. I remember that. And I mean, I gotta say I was somewhat right, just in the wrong side of reasoning. He went down and the shortstop position was a disaster. Who is, whether they perform very well or they perform very bad, the biggest X factor for this team?
I would say Alex Bregman. He is going to be, I think, I don't want to say the face of the team, because I think right now the face of the team might be Alex Cora. But then going past that, I don't even think Devers is in like the top 3. I think Alex Bregman could end up being the face of the team. He is a leader. He has been in situations before that the Red Sox want to be in October. And I think he performs well. I was down at spring training 2 weeks ago. The first play of the game, it was Alex Bregman making great play at third. Immediately, he should be at third base. This conversation should have been over a long time ago that he should be at third. I think he just, by the moment he signed with the team, the vibes changing like that. I think he will continue to be, that was an X factor right there, but I think continue to be that throughout the season. I would say Alex Bregman, because he is turning the entire thing around. And if they are, which they should be, still playing in October, Alex Bregman is a big piece of that. So I think he will be, and I think he should be, and I see him being that as an X factor this season.
Ben?
I would agree, but just, for the sake of having a show, I know he doesn't do it vocally, but I look at a guy like Garrett Crochet. Baseball's a lifelong passion of mine. I pitched when I played, so I kind of gravitate in that regard. And, for somebody who can go out there and be a guy you can count on every 5 days to shut down the opponent, he may not, he's not a demonstrative guy. He's not, and Matt will probably shake his head at me for using this guy as an example, but like, he's not a Trevor Bauer. He's not a showman on the mound. He's not going to sheath he's not going to sheath a sword. He's not going to yell and pretend to crack a beer after some miraculous strikeout. That's not who he is. He's going to go out there. He's going to throw, 6-7 innings, 8 to 12 strikeouts, and he's just going to walk off the mound like he's done it before. There's no showmanship there, which, take it or leave it. I don't think that makes a ton of difference. But, for a guy who the team knows they're going to be able to count on him and they can jump on his back and they know that, he can lead with his skill set. I think that X factor certainly was very much lacking last year. There was no ace. There was no stud guy that you could just roll out every 5 days and say, okay,
I don't even know if there was a number 2. So,
fair. It's true. No guy was like, okay, but other than 2 guys, the bullpen can take a night off. Like, that guy didn't exist. So I think, that's going to go a long way, especially where maybe not depth wise, but, there's certainly some questions in the bullpen about like, well, who is the closer? Who's, what roles are guys going to figure out? But, so it's just going to be nice that a guy like Garrett Crochet can go out there, once or twice a week. And, 70% of the time give you his best stuff and keep you in a game that you can win. I think that really, really matters. And is going to for a full season.
All right, Zach, we need a third one from you.
Third one from me. I'll go. I'll stick in the what?
The hot dog vendor.
Hot dog. Yeah. Repeat. You can yell and sell the most hot dogs in the stadium. No, I'll stick with the rotation. But I'll go like a Tanner Houck type guy under the radar. But if he can be your like as good as he was, or even 3/4 of as good as he was at the first half last year. Obviously, the wheels fell off at the back end of last year. That will give you, Crochet at the top, then Buehler number 3, and then Buehler number 2, and then Houck number 3. That'll give you a solid rotation. Brian Bayo is pretty much who he is at this point. I've said he's probably a number 3 guy in your rotation at his best. So if he's your 4, you're in a good spot. And then whoever the 5th one is, whether it's Crawford when he gets healthy, whether it's Criswell, whether they're, whoever that is, if you can have a solid 1, 2, 3 of Crochet, Buehler, and Houck, it's going to have a really difficult time. It's going to give opposing lineups a really difficult time. You can feel confident going in that maybe they do Lucy get 100 wins, but yeah, I think having him as good as he was
easy.
Of course, casually.
Yeah.
Everything's easy when you think about it, right?
Exactly.
But I think if you can go in there and then have the confidence that he can give you again even 3/4 of what he gave you in the first half, be off and running.
Yeah. Nobody said Tristan Casas. Breaks my heart.
No, and I won't. I think he's obviously could be a big one. Trevor Story again could be a big one. Fortunately, I think they have a little bit more insurance this year if he does get hurt again. But I'm going to stick with the pitching, and I'm going to go I wouldn't say he's really the biggest, but because you guys took the ones I wanted. But Garrett Whitlock, if that guy can come in and be close to what he was in 2021, which was like a multi-inning reliever, if he can be that lights out reliever again, that has the opportunity to take this team into, in my opinion, another level. Because they have, they got Liam Hendricks, they got Chapman, they got Slayton in the back of the bullpen. They look like they have a pretty solid back end of the bullpen, but having Whitlock to not only come in and be that dominant feature, but a guy that can go that 5th, 6th, and 7th sometimes, or it's the 5th and 6th when a pitcher is, goes out early in the 4th or 5th inning. If he could come in and be that dominant guy that goes 6 innings a week, whether it's, every 3rd day or something like that, or every other day, it's such a big bonus for this team. And, Nick chimed in and asking about the Koza situation. I think Chapman's the leader in the clubhouse. That's at least according to some reports. But I wouldn't rule out a guy like Whitlock taking that job throughout the season, solely because I think that if he gets back to who he is, he's the best pitcher in that bullpen. And it's plain and simple. So yeah, they might suit him for a better of a multi-inning guy. But if he's the best pitcher in that bullpen and Chapman is not, lighting things up, I could see Whitlock going in there. And he asked about Slayton as well. I mean, Slayton's going to have the opportunity. I think right now, it's going to be Chapman, but we know Chapman's walk issues throughout the years and stuff like that. So it's his job right now, but that he's going into the season, I think, even with his seat pretty warm. It's not exactly set for him. So I'll go Whitlock just because of what I think it can bring that bullpen into kind of the next level for this team. Next up, this is kind of basically just who do you think is going to have more home runs this year, Trevor Story or Jarren Duran?
I would go Duran.
Duran's sitting at 18.5, I believe. I didn't see Story's, but I think if Story stays healthy, he should probably win out. But that's also the biggest factor in all this.
That is why.
I capital F with that one, though.
Yep, exactly. That's why I would go Jarren Duran, because you have the risk that Trevor Story is going to get injured, and then there it goes. So I would go Jarren Duran. Plus, I feel like he could have a big year. So he's kind of, I don't know if he will kind of come into his own as maybe his own leader. Perhaps. I don't know if he actually is like a vocal leader. He's a leader in some ways. But I think Trevor Story's injuries are my concern when it comes to taking him to have more home runs. So I would take Jarren Duran.
Ben?
I agree.
Yeah. Plain and simple.
Lucy's points were all the points I was going to make. It's really like the injury thing that comes down to it. I don't trust that Trevor Story is going to stay healthy for the whole year. So at the risk of copying and pasting whatever Lucy said, I'm just going to say I agree, because it truly is everything that I was going to say.
So I'll be a contrarian just to spark the debate. I think the third time's a charm for Trevor Story. 3rd year of a deal. He feels pretty amped up. I think that the other part of this that we alluded to, right, with Bregman playing third bases, I think that there's now less defensive stress on a guy like Trevor Story, who feels like he will not necessarily have to make as many plays to his arm side, because Bregman is not going to make routine errors at third the way that Devers would. So I feel like that might be able to take a little bit of pressure off of him defensively, and that's how he got hurt last year. He had to make that diving stop in the hole to his right, and that's what happened with his shoulder. Devers immediately like hands on his head. Oh no, like this is the end of the world, and Trevor Story never recovered. So hopefully, hopefully the better defense at third. And I know obviously it's not going to be Bregman every day. He's going to need days off, and Devers is going to find himself over there every once in a while. But I feel like with less need to be an A+ shortstop, more so than he already is defensively, that's going to be able to save him. There's less risk of an injury there, and being able to hit behind some of the better guys, I think certainly will take the pressure off of him offensively. Matt, he's projected 5-hitter is what Cora basically said. He's going to hit 5th. So, there's going to be guys ahead of him, obviously, maybe not Duran, because he's going to hit, and anything can turn into a double with his speed. So maybe he's not on base, but, other guys are going to be on base in front of him, plenty of opportunities. And maybe slight bias, but I have him on my fantasy team, so I kind of need him to be a full go for the season.
That's all you need to say. Yeah, I think that's the good.
You just gave this big explanation and realized it was just threw in there that it was a biased opinion.
Yep. That's a
No,
really good, actually, if you ever need a contrarian point, to be like, he's on my fantasy team.
Yeah. Ben, I'm going to agree with you, though. And I think it's a little bit more that, like, stories become that Chris Sale for me in the last couple of years. Chris Sale was like, I just want him to figure it out because I really like the player and I really want him to just finally stay healthy. And then we traded Chris Sale and he finally stayed healthy because
then he wins an NL Cy Young.
He did, and if you had him to, if you envisioned that and had him to win the NL Cy Young and listened to those who did, then you would be in business with Chris Sale. It's a very nice win.
Yeah, is that a casual pump by you, Lucy?
Yeah, it was, because I did have him to win the NL Cy Young, and everyone said at the beginning of last season, that's dumb. He's going to get hurt, and he won it. So look at that.
All right, props there. No, I just like it. Maybe it's just being hopeful, but like I think even Duran, I think Duran's going to sit around what he did last year: 16 to 18 home runs, a double machine, an all-around really good player. I think that Story, if he stays healthy, can be a 22 to 25, 26 home run guy. So even if he maybe misses a little time, I think he has a good opportunity to kind of overcome Duran's home run number. But speaking of home runs, Rafael Devers, 29.5. Are we hitting the over? I know he's going to be what seems to be a primary DH. All he has to do is hit the ball. Finally, Red Sox fans can recognize that the only reason we paid him is to hit the ball, so it doesn't matter if he's not playing third base because no one paid him to play third base. Is he gonna hold the weight of his contract at DH this year?
Yeah, if he does not bring his pouty attitude to the plate, I think he can do it, because I think Devers needs to shut up and do what's best for the team, or trade him. Like, get out of here with this attitude, because you need to do what's best for the team. If it's good for Big Poppy, it's good enough for Devers. So you know what? Shut up, and he can hit 40 home runs, let's say, this year. And show them, like,
geez.
They're
winning 110 games, so he's gonna hit 40 home runs.
If you win 110 games, every number is going to be inflated. So yeah, Jarren Duran hits more home runs than Trevor Story, but let's say Jarren Duran hits 45 and Trevor Story hits 44.
All right. Three guys. What is Costas hitting?
Yep. It's where?
800.
Where's Costas? How many Costas hitting?
300 home runs.
One every
two a
game.
Yes. Yep. That's what he will do.
I like it.
I can see it. I can see him doing that, and doing it with it's no big deal.
The old heads of Red Sox Twitter that hate Costas will still find something to complain about.
They'll be like, yeah, but he wears nail polish, so everybody.
Yeah, and he's sunbathes in right field.
So how dare he? How dare men have hobbies? Like, come on.
Yeah. Ben, over you, over under 29.5.
Over. That was my number. I just kind of pulled that out of my head. I don't know, Lucy, does he have an over-under on BetMGM for home runs?
No, but that's maybe what it would be if there was.
Yeah, on another site I won't. This is a BetMGM night, so on the other site that I won't name, it was 29.5.
Okay, it feels low because you kind of expect Devers on a fully healthy season to be if he's fully healthy every year, you expect him to be in that low to mid 30s range. So I'll hammer the over. Especially where he's going to be the DH, and we don't have to. I mean, not that he misses games, but we don't have to worry about the defense being a possible hindrance with his health. So I'll hammer the over. I think he's probably more in that, 38. I think it feels like the right number. I'm
wrong. I am wrong. BetMGM does have it. The number is 30.5. For Rafael Devers.
Okay, so
all right.
It's a little higher there.
So yeah,
I mean, last year he was at 28, right? So he missed a little bit of time, had 138 games, but the year before he hit 33 and played 153. So it seems like that low 30s number is really like he plays a full season, he's got a good shot at doing it.
Yeah, so I think, especially where he's going to be a full-time DH, and that, well, I shouldn't say full-time. He'll mix in at third base every once in a while. Primary DH, I feel as if, mid to upper 30s feels a little bit better of a number in my opinion, just because that's all he's going to have to focus on is figuring out how to hit the ball over the fence. He won't have to focus on ground balls and whatnot. So,
Superfan Nick says, what I'm hearing is Story's winning the MVP.
Yes.
No, Tristan Casas is hitting 300 home runs. So
I had him last year to win AL MVP, Tristan Casas, and he did not do that.
I think I did put money like $20 on him last year to win MVP.
I think it's a smart bet if you put like $1 on it. Put $5 on it because you never know. Tristan Casas
it was
is
like
a man
crazy
of many mysteries.
high odds.
Yeah, he's a man of many mysteries, and really, he could break out. He could hit 100 home runs, say 300.
Well,
that's
the next one on my list. 25.5 home runs is his over under.
Clearly way over.
Lucy's on the over tonight.
I am way on the over for that. Yes. Because the guy is the face of this documentary that is coming out. The first preview for this, it's all Tristan Casas yelling at himself. So there were talks about, did they trade Tristan Casas? They're not trading him because he's the whole documentary. Then what's the point of the whole thing coming out on April 8th if they're trading him before that? That's stupid. They're going to keep Tristan Casas, and he's going to hit over 25 home runs.
How funny would it be the documentary comes out, it has nothing to do with Tristan Casas.
Oh yeah, no, that isn't even in there. It's everybody else.
It's just B-roll of him yelling at himself in the locker room.
It's like the extra scene at the end during the credits, and he's not even in it. It's all Jarren Duran.
Yeah.
I forgot to fix the background, so now I'm fixing it. Now, all right, so you guys also like over 25.5?
If he stays healthy, yeah. I don't know. I was looking up his stats just now, and he hasn't done 25 home runs in his career. His best season was 2023 at 24. But yeah, if he can stay healthy, finally, he will. But I think it's been 2-1, so I'll go contrarian as well, and I'll go under. Just because I was part of the leader of the.
Is it because of the nail polish, Zach? Just a minute.
What? It's more the bare feet and the yoga in the right field before that. The nail polish, honestly, but
you can't take Tristan Casas to do anything anymore because of woke. So it's really just a tough scene out there.
Everything's woke now. Yes.
Garrett Crochet. This is a good one for Crochet. Over under 199.5 strikeouts this year.
Oh, way over. Over. I'm going way over that. I like that very much for him to win Cy Young, perhaps.
Oh.
I mean, if he at this rate, he only needs to pitch about like 90 innings if he continues this pace that he's in spring training. So, I really like the over here. What was his K per 9 last year? I want to look it up.
Last year he had, I think it was I have it right here. So 209 strikeouts last year.
12.8.
So if you divide that.
12.88 Ks per 9 in 2024.
Yeah, so I mean, on that pace, he's going to be putting at 160 innings, 165 innings, maybe to get to that pace.
Last year was 146 innings and 209 strikeouts.
Okay, so even less. All right, yeah. So I'll definitely hammer the over, unless there's really an injury. I don't see why he wouldn't hit that because I mean, they held him back in the second half last year. He could have gone 180 plus for inning wise, so he would have smashed that way over.
I like that.
Agreed.
Zach, you also over the over?
I said I was in the over before, but yeah, I'm on the over as well.
Yeah.
I don't have any real concerns on injuries either. I don't think he's been hurt. Maybe I'm getting that mixed up with somebody else, but I don't think he's been hurt. I think he's just been held back, like you said, Matt. So yeah, hammering the over. The innings to hit that 200 at its current pace is not overly you don't have to get to
2/3 of a season
innings to get to it. So yeah, hammer the over for that one
certainly
too.
Hit it. Jarren Duran over under 30.5 stolen bases.
Oh, I love this one over. He is so fast. Yes, I would go over. He could have, I will say, 35 stolen bases.
35. What did he hit last year? Last year he was at 34. Okay, and he played 160 games, so 30.5. That should be a good one because it's tough to predict him to play, 160 games. It's tough to predict anybody to play 160 games in a season. I'm going to lean the under just because it's tough to bet on that. Like, I think if he gets down closer to he might end up around 150 games. If he goes on the DL once, one short-term DL injury, that could be the difference of him not hitting that. So I'm going to sneak the under and say he ends up at 30 on the dot. And when I bet that tonight, I will make sure to bring back up this podcast episode at the end of the season.
Write down that timestamp.
For the same reasons, I'll also say under, but I think he's going to be right there. I think with a full season, especially given that the lineup is way better today than it was at any point last year, that tends to favor guys at the top of the lineup. He's going to hit leadoff for any game that he's there. Guys behind him are going to see pitches. He's going to have opportunities to steal bases. I'll lean the under only because, again, hard to say he would play 160 games. And there's enough outfield depth on the team that they won't need him to play 160. He's certainly talented enough that he should be in there, 99% of the time. But I'll say under for those reasons. But it wouldn't shock me if he swiped 40 bags and just went off.
Right.
Yeah, I'd go over just because, of the speed thing. He's so fast, has the ability to turn anything into a double, right? But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets up towards 40, being 42, 45 stolen bases. Good point by Ben. I think the better the lineup is behind you, the more pitchers they're going to face and then try to, hold them on, whatever. But I do think, he'll let loose a little bit more this year and get closer to that, 40 number where was he at 32, you said? Last year, 33, whatever it was. 34. So, yeah, I think, even with a little bit less games, I think he'll probably, be a bit more aggressive maybe than it was last year. And I think, Core's going to just send him when
part of it to me is, you got what seems to be Rafaela hitting 9th in the order. He's a guy that, chases a lot of pitchers, swings the bat, usually has some quick at-bats. That certainly can play a factor in a guy like Duran's stolen base numbers. So that also maybe will play a factor in me being the under. So I guess this next one will double up on two of the previous ones, and it's more for Lucy and Zach since they went over on Duran and Devers. Who will have more, Duran stolen bases or Devers home runs this year?
Ooh.
I'll go Duran steals for that one. I can't see Devers hitting. If I'm going to go out here and say that Duran's going to get 40, I don't know. This is going to be the year that Devers breaks his record of 38, but it could be. But yeah, if I'm going to say he's going to get 40, 42, 45 steals for Duran, it'll be hard for me to say the same number for Devers home runs. So for that reason, I'll go Duran more.
Okay, I am going to go Devers more home runs than Duran has stolen bases because I did say that Devers will have 40 home runs and that I think I said that, and then Duran will have 35 stolen bases and 40 is more than 35. So I think I'm going to stick with that. And I'm going to go Devers will have more home runs than Jarren Duran has stolen bases.
Absolutely. I was not a math major, but I can confirm 40 is
I would rather have
I
$40
counted
than 35.
and I realized, yes.
I used my fingers.
Yep. And I was like, man, and
40 was higher than 55.
Too.
All right. To wrap this up with you, Lucy, I don't know. I think we did this last time you were on, but we're going to do your state, your take. We'll do ours later in the episode, but it could be Red Sox related. It could be anything you want. What's your state, your take for the evening?
Yeah, well, my take, it's simple, gentlemen. The Red Sox will win the World Series this year. First of all, vibes. The vibes are very high, and that's really the only argument that you can vibes. At this point, when you make your World Series prediction, what more do you really go on? You have a little bit of talent and a lot of vibes. So I did say last year, no way the Dodgers will win the World Series. It's too easy, and look what happened. But you can't get that lucky twice. So I think the Red Sox will win the World Series, and those odds are plus 1,800 at BetMGM, which are far shorter odds, not as much value because, of course, last year, if they were, plus 5,000, there's more value there. But plus 1,800, when you look at what their odds were last year at this time to win the World Series, that's crazy. They're right up there with some of the best teams in Major League Baseball, odds-wise, and talent-wise. So they will win the World Series. I don't remember when, we talked about, remember when the vibes were this high, but it feels like a long time. And it wasn't, a decade ago, but still it was a long time ago in the grand scheme of things. And they're very, very high right now, to the point where it is conceivable that the Red Sox can win the World Series. It's not that crazy to say. So that is my take. The Red Sox will win the World Series this year. People reply when I say that. They say, what year? This year, 2025, the year of our Lord, 2025, the Red Sox will win the World Series.
I love it. I'm certainly a fan. I'm on board with that idea, boys. Are you feeling the same way? You a fan of the Red Sox winning the World Series this year?
I'm on board with October baseball. Sign me up.
Not whether you think it's going to happen. Just do you like the idea of them winning the World Series?
Love the idea. I don't like it. Love it.
Do you want duck boats?
Yeah, just warm them up around. Change the oil, fill the gas tank.
All right, one more question, Lucy. Though, if they're going to win the World Series, who will be the drunkest on the duck boat this year?
Ooh, this is a good question.
It can't be Jared Kravis.
No, it's not. I don't know if he's going to be on the duck. I would say, this is tough because, Bregman? I don't know.
Yeah, Bregman.
That's what I would think. I would say
I could see Crochet.
We're just gonna say Crochet.
Yeah,
right.
He's 6'6", 250. I bet you he can throw back a 12-pack like nobody's business.
I just don't want anyone to be as sick as Sam Hauser was at the Celtics parade, because that grosses me out like you wouldn't believe. He did get sick on the duck boat, so I don't want anyone doing that. But I would say maybe Alex Bregman, just because he came here to help this team, win a World Series, and then he does it. So I'm trying to think of who's a guy who, when it gets down to it, when he's not playing, is really Alex Bregman is the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah, I would say Bregman, Crochet. I feel it could pound them back. Liam Hendricks would be a dark horse. I feel like he could probably put them back like there's no other.
This is true.
His body type,
does anyone buy a duck boat at the end of this? Maybe Bregman.
Yeah.
And then he leaves.
That's the next one. Most likely to buy a duck boat.
Yeah. You know who should is Tristan Cassis. He would live on the duck boat.
You know what? He would own a duck boat. He'd just be cruising down the Charles going to work.
Yep.
He would sunbathe on it. He could walk it outside Fenway and sunbathe on that.
He'd be doing warrior pose on the bow.
Why hasn't he yet? When you think about it, he really could. That would be a great photo shoot too.
All right, that's going to wrap us up with Lucy tonight. Lucy, I appreciate you coming on. You are I've been asked this question before. Our second repeat guest here on Raise the Banner. So
I'm the second member of the Two Timers Club.
Yeah, you and John Lyons. WEI, yeah.
Great guy. That is great company. I love that. So shout out John Lyons. Thank you guys. This has been an absolute blast. I'm excited for a World Series. I'll see you guys at the parade.
Yes, maybe we'll be the drunkest ones on the duck boat at the parade.
Well, you'll be the first 3-time guest when we go live from the parade.
I will be
mid-October.
The drunkest at the parade. You better believe
it. Okay, Lucy, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Lucy.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're going to transition into a little bit of Patriots because we have not talked about it since the start of free agency. So I'm going to just leave it at that. Boys, how we feeling? Free agency's about a little bit of a week over, right? They went in, they signed a bunch of defensive guys. They did not sign a bunch of offensive guys. They did bring in Moses, and today they bring in Bradbury formerly from Minnesota. How are we feeling about this offseason and where things stand for the New England Patriots?
Yeah, I give it a solid B, teetering on B plus. Can't give it an A, Greg, because as you said, really no offensive talent was added except for Moses and now today Garrett Bradbury. But feels like the first time in a long time that it feels like anyone that they were connected to on Twitter, they signed. Milton Williams, Garrett Bradbury. Saw a couple reports about them being in on Carlton Davis. They got him. Obviously Harold Landry was kind of an obvious one, just given his time with Vrabel. But there really isn't a position of need that they went into this offseason with that they didn't go out and get, except for maybe safety. Would have liked to see them get a Javon Holland, for example, or Justin Reed. But overall vibes maybe aren't quite as high as the Red Sox, but certainly much higher than they were this time last year. They actually did go out and spend money. And then when Milton Williams, for example, kind of looked like he was on his way out and going to Carolina, they stepped in again and said, no, we're getting you. Like, name your price, name your number. You're coming here. So let's hope they can go out and get some offensive talent in the draft, or maybe through trades or what have you. But overall, so far, so good.
Zach? I mean, Ben.
If you wanted an echo, I would have just let you have it. I'm in that BB plus range. That first day it was like one guy after another. It was like, wow, this is fantastic. I would say looking back at it, they didn't make any sexy moves. They made like the boring signings. Like they needed a good, D tackle. You go get Milton Williams. Like, okay. It's like drafting an offensive lineman in the first round. Like, it's necessary, but nobody jumps off the couch and gets excited about, a potential left tackle.
Williams borders on sexy though.
I like his upside. Hopefully he can, I know that hopefully he wasn't a byproduct of that Eagles defensive line.
True.
It was just that good, but he only played 50% of the snaps just because they had just an insane rotation.
So
But other than the only Zach, you kind of hit the nail on the head. The only glaring hole that they didn't address, and it wasn't necessarily due to a lack of trying, was they still they didn't make a splash at wide receiver. Like, I get that Mac Hollins is certainly like a depth move, fine. Like, yeah, he's a guy that you can bring into the wide receiver room, short money, depending on what happens in the draft, or if you can go trade for a guy like a Brandon Ayuk, he might be an odd man out. Although, who knows with the, I would imagine that like Douglas and Booty are probably the only guys in that wide receiver room that are 100% safe. Polk is pretty close because I don't think they're going to jump ship on a high second round pick a year after you take him. But like Javon Baker, not safe. Mac Hollins could be an odd man out. But other than that, they certainly filled, holes that were necessary. And the guys that they bring in, fill certain roles, right? Like Harold Landry, not necessarily an elite pass rusher, but he certainly can help maintain the edge. And he's good in run defense. Spillane up the middle next to Juwan Bentley, can certainly be good run stuffers in the second level of the defense. If anybody were to ever get past Milton Williams, Carlton Davis will lock down the other side of the secondary opposite Christian Gonzalez. So going into the draft, I really want them, there's still certain things they have to do, but I really want them to be, I would love them to be offensive heavy. They still need a left tackle, which, like wide receiver, they're kind of a victim of circumstance. None of the top left tackles that could have been free agents ever hit the market. Alaire Jackson, Ronnie Stanley, both signed before the tampering window opened. And that left with guys like Dan Brown, who is probably Dan Moore, who's probably just on the other side of average as an offensive tackle, gets $20 million a year. Like, yeah,
that's nuts.
Which is, yeah, his PFF grade, he ranks roughly like 40th out of 145 tackles. And that's all tackles, by the way. That's not just left tackles. It's all tackles in the NFL. He was, top 40, but you figure, then it's also left tackles. So, how
he's a mid left tackle. Like, he's fine.
And we'd be saying like, oh wow, like we spent $20 million a year on a guy who's like his single season record for PFF, I think, is like a 68, which is,
put it this way. Dan Moore's, if the Pats signed Dan Moore to that deal, that would put Tony Maserati in heaven. He could be bitching up a storm about that.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say, I was like, no, he would not be happy. I mean, he was, shout out Maz. He was, he called out some weaknesses on Garrett Bradbury. I know, Matt, you brought him up.
Dude, it drove me nuts. He goes, "Here's the scouting report," and then only says the weaknesses. Doesn't say the summary. Doesn't say the strengths. Just only lists the weaknesses.
Well, of course, it doesn't go against. It goes against his. It goes against his. What does Felger always say? Against his narrative.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, B plus, is kind of where I'm at. That could certainly, be a solid B plus if you go get a guy like a Brandon Ayuk. Matt and I talked, was it yesterday or this morning? Dov Kleiman quoted something that projected an offseason trade was it SI that we were going to trade, that we could trade, that not could, that the projection was the Pats were going to move the number 4 overall pick to the 49ers and get Ayuk 11 and 43, which are their first 2-round picks this year, which as a Patriots fan, it would be really hard not to get super pumped about that move. But given where the 49ers are at, like they either lost or sold off pieces this offseason. So, like, to me, like, I get it. Like, sure, if they're going to go into a rebuild mode, it makes sense to move Ayuk, who, by 2025 standards is not necessarily asininely expensive anymore, especially now with Jamar Chase topping $40 million a year on his latest deal. $30 million for a low-end wide receiver 1 type of guy feels like a decent price. And he's still young. Ayuk, I think, is entering his age 26 season. I don't know when he turns 27, but it would make sense if they wanted to move on from him. That just is a trade that makes zero sense for the 49ers. I think, if you asked me, would I trade 38 straight up for him? Probably. I don't know if you would need to give up a high second-round pick for him. Matt seems to be the guru on figuring out what a legitimate trade offer is. So I don't know if you would need to give up a high second, but you could certainly drastically improve that grade by making a splash at wide receiver. And then, of course, there's going to be ample opportunities for them to draft a guy. But, you got to address left tackle, got to address wide receiver. But I think they're well on their way to doing everything that they needed to and what we could have hoped for in the offseason between free agency and the draft, which is in like 38 days.
Yeah, I mean, they were aggressive, right? So, that's what we asked for the most part. Like, that's what we wanted. Like you said, the tackles and the wide receiver positions just never really became available in free agency. They could have went and got, I'm happy they didn't pay Dan Moore that deal. I would have maybe said to go get Jalen Moore. He signed in KC for, I want to say it was 2 years, 30. I would have been, I think that's a lot of money for him, but I would have been okay with that on a 2-year deal, I think. But, they were supposedly offering Godwin well more than what he got in Tampa. If the report from, I think, Burt Breer is true, they were going to be offering they were going to be offering Stanley like another $4 to $5 million a year off what he got in Baltimore. So, to an extent, it's tough to keep giving them this credit of, well, they offered him that, they would have offered him this, or they did offer him this, and then he just said no. Same thing with Ayuk kind of last year. It's really kind of until they do it, you gotta be a little bit critical of them. But that's why I'm also being a little bit patient. I think that there are moves that could still come, especially after the draft. Teams draft the guy. All of a sudden, a team ends up, they fall in love with the wide receiver, and it falls to them at the middle of the first round or the middle of the second round. All of a sudden, the receiver that they had that they weren't really thinking about trading too much is now available. We saw it with Ayuk last year. Like, that when was that trade conversation? That was in like July or something like that, or August. Those conversations were.
It wasn't during the year.
No, he signed before the draft, before the season.
Yeah.
He did? Okay.
Yeah, but it was deep into the summer. So, you know what I mean? Like things can pop up. I'm gonna give them the time that I don't want to use the word deserve, but give them the credit that
late August. It was late August.
Yeah,
it was right before week 1 of the season.
Exactly. Yep. So I'm going to give them the time that they, the full off season is, and not make quick judgments because a lot can change. But the matter of the fact is, as things stand right now, if they do not make any of the moves heading into the draft, their top 3 needs are basically the exact same as what they were 2 weeks ago, and that is that left tackle, wide receiver, and edge rusher. I think those are the exact same 3 needs. They filled edge rusher a tiny bit with Harold Landry and Chase on, but like neither of them are great fixes, and neither of them are long-term fixes. No. So I think edge rusher is still right there. Obviously, they didn't even add a left tackle yet. And if Matt Collins is your best wide receiver addition, well, I don't need to really even explain that one.
No.
They need to improve it. All things considered, like I said, I'm giving them a little bit more time, but I think you guys are right. Where right now, it's if the season started tomorrow, I would put them around a B-, B. Just because if the season starts tomorrow, well, they didn't address left tackle. But there's a wide window depending on the draft. We'll see how things go where that could jump up into the high B+ range, maybe even A range. But where are you guys on? If the draft is tomorrow, what are you feeling at number 4? Are you set on whether it's Hunter or Carter, or are you forcing something like a Will Campbell or a different offensive player?
Best player available.
Yeah, you got to go best player. I wouldn't force Will Campbell. I've kind of softened on him at 4. It really depends on I go back to week 18. Like this really, like us blowing the shot at the number 1 pick. I wouldn't say drastically, but I would say it's moderately coming back to bite us in the ass a little bit. They would have held all the cards. Obviously there is no clear consensus. This guy is the number 1 overall pick. I feel like that pick probably had more value a month ago. I can only speculate it's because Shedeur Sanders is coming off like a schmuck in these meetings, because everything I read and everything I've heard is that his draft stock is absolutely in a tailspin. And Colorado has not had their pro day. He has not thrown. So it's all based on how he's conducting himself in these interviews, which apparently is not going well. So obviously the number 1 pick has kind of lost its luster a little bit. But 4 is just such an awkward spot to be, right? Because, as it stands, I would expect Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter to both be gone at number 4. I would fully expect that. Unless things go absolutely swimmingly for Shedeur Sanders at his pro day and teams really warm up to him. It's like you watch him in person, you're like, yeah, maybe the guy's a little bit of an ass in these meetings, but the talent is there. We can, maybe we can coach him out of it a little bit. Like, unless things really change for him, I don't know how you could realistically think that he has any shot of being a top 3 pick. So unless things really change and you luck into somebody, a team like the Giants being like, okay, well, Cam Ward went ahead of us, but we really love Shedeur Sanders. We're taking him here because we don't think we can get him in the early part of the second round. Then you're kind of in an awkward spot because Carter and Hunter are probably not going to be there. So you go, okay, somebody's going to want to make an offer because they like somebody. But it's like the value for your pick isn't gonna be super high. Because no one, unless somebody thinks that Tet McMillan is the next Jerry Rice, no one's going to be offering much of anything to move up to number 4 for him. So you're kind of in an awkward spot. So it's like, if you have to stick and pick because you're not getting any offers for number 4 and Carter and Hunter are gone, like I kind of want to say Mason Graham. Like there's really nobody else
Where
in
do
my
you play
opinion next to Milton Williams.
What about Barmore?
What about Barmore?
I mean, the thing about Mason Graham though is where he's undersized. Maybe you convert Mason Graham into an edge rusher because he's not.
I mean, maybe, but do you want to be taking a guy at 4th overall that you're trying to move to a different position that he's never played before?
I mean, no, but it's not like it's never been done before.
No.
But that's why 4 is such an awkward spot because if Carter and Hunter are gone, what player has the most upside at number 4? In my opinion, it's probably like you could make an argument for anybody, but like it's probably Mason Graham. Like, sure, like unless you really, really, really love Tet McMillan, you're not taking a wide receiver at 4. So it's like obviously in an ideal world, you almost have to just move back, and even though it is probably going to be below market value on an average year, you just have to take like the best available trade offer, move back, add a pick, and then at that point, if you're staying in the top 10, then it's like okay, what left tackle do we love? And maybe, if you love Josh Simmons, assuming that his medicals check out, great. He probably has the most upside of the left tackles in the draft, but the question mark on his health is there. If you're sitting there in the 9, 10, 11 range, do you consider Tet McMillan? Maybe, you probably still get Will Campbell at that spot. Like, it's just such a weird spot to be in. It's like, I feel like with every passing day, I'm less and less confident of any kind of move that is just a clear cut. This is what they have to do at 4, whether it's stick and pick or trade back, because any trade back again is going to be below value. So it's like, and how far back are you going to end up going anyway? Like who's going to want to move up all the way to 4 when Carter and Hunter are off the board?
Yeah. So I think, I'll say if Hunter is there at 4, I think that there is close to 100% chance that they take him. I'm very confident in that. In the few, that's a mix of like I think he's the best player. There's a couple people I've talked to that say that they're very very high on him. I think that if he's there at 4, that's going to be your answer. If he's not there at 4, if Carter's there at 4, I think that there's a good chance that they take him, but I think they'll also listen to offers. If both of them aren't there, I think that you look at that and you say, what's the best offer? And even if the value in theory isn't great compared to like history wise,
which it won't be.
Yeah. I still think you look at that and you probably lean that way. Now, if it's garbage, like I'm not saying, move back to 8 for like a 4th round pick, but if the Raiders call and are offering only a 3rd round pick to slide up, like that's undervalued. But if they're both gone, I think I lean that way. Just because I think that you could still get a guy you want, like the guys you really like still are going to be there at 6 and what the fits this team and all that. If Chicago offers the same thing at 10, if Carolina offers, the same type of thing at 8, I'm not saying a 3rd, but like an undervalue offer that's still like decent and you still add a pick or 2. Yeah, I just think you lean that way. Like if Carolina comes and offers just the 2, which I think is, for the most part, a little bit undervalued to move up to 4. If they just offer a 2, even if it's next year, I think you would take that deal without Carter and Hunter on the board.
Yeah, and that's the tricky part, right? Because I look at, with the likelihood that it's in some order Ward, Hunter, and Carter. Like, who are the teams that are sitting in the 2, 3, 4 range behind you? So that would be the Raiders, the Jets, the Panthers, like the Saints, maybe. But you look at those 3 or 4 teams and go, does one of those teams absolutely love a Mason Graham or a Tet McMillan, or, I mean, I don't know who, like, pick any name, right? Maybe the Bears are like, hey, we don't think that Jonty is going to fall to us at 10, and we don't want to risk losing him. And we all know that Ben Johnson absolutely loves his running backs. So unless somebody gets like cold, like jittery feet and pulls the trigger on something, you're probably looking at, trading back. Vegas calls and say they're like, okay, like we'll throw in 68 to move up to 4. You can slide back to 6. The Jets could do the same thing with 73.
We also have to remember that, like, even if there's not an obvious player that someone's trading up for, if a team like Carolina, like if they really like Mason Graham and they say, well, it's only going to take this, let's go and get the guy we want. That pick can still be very enticing, even without a clear top guy.
Yeah, you're right. You just may not get, and I know we talked about, it's like, well, what if, what would it cost the 49ers realistically to move up from 11 to 4, and the closest comp you have is the 49ers trading up for Trey Lance in 2021, where they swapped first rounders and added in 2 additional. Like, you're not getting that in 2025 with this draft class. But yeah, I mean, so it's like, I don't know if Carolina would really pull the trigger, because if they trade up from 8 and they do that deal that you're talking about, they're basically giving up their only, like, they don't have a second round pick.
Yeah.
So
Chicago's a team that makes a lot of sense.
I'm sorry, they have a late second. They don't have an early second. So
yeah, there's in the 50s.
Yeah, 57 or 58. So it's like, if they're giving up a first and a late second, well, they don't have, it's not like they're giving up an early third. They're giving, so it's like, I don't know if they would pull the trigger on that, but yeah, I mean, you might have to take a below market value offer, and, and then at that point you're in a better spot, because then it's like, okay, well, now you're getting value for a guy like a Josh Simmons, a Will Campbell, again, or a Tet McMillan type of guy, in the, 8 to 11 range.
Yeah, well, I think Chicago's a team that makes a lot of sense now to move up, because they've invested heavy in at least in their interior offensive line. Now they look at that and they say they own the 39th and the 41st pick. And so I think that they have that luxury where if they go and, like, maybe a Carter's there, and they say, we could really use that dominant edge rusher to add to this defense. And they go, okay, we'll give you 39 plus 10 for that pick. And if I'm the Patriots, I heavily consider that, even with Carter on the board.
So with Carter on the board, I'd probably want a little bit more, but it's not that far off. Like, I might want like a second or a third rounder next year, just because of the guy that you're passing up. If Carter and Hunter are gone and Chicago's like, conversations we're having make us feel like we can't get the guy we want at 10, then yeah, maybe you have to settle for 10 and 39 or 10 and 41 without the additional pick.
Zach, where are you on all this?
So I don't know that I'm really convinced that we're going to need to trade back. I know there was a lot of talk about trading back, but I feel super confident. Maybe not super confident, but I feel very confident that one of the two is going to be available at Hunter or Carter. I think there's a higher likelihood that a team like Cleveland takes Carter to pair up with Myles Garrett. And you look at the team like the Giants, they're a bit panicky in terms of who they take, and they sometimes can reach, especially now that they got rid of Saquon and he just won the Super Bowl with the Eagles. They're going to want to pair somebody with Malik Neighbors. They're going to want somebody to kind of be the face of that franchise, especially after Daniel Jones was a complete bust. Now they do run the risk of picking a Shedeur Sanders, for example, at 3, and him being a bust as well. And now you're over your last 2. But I think they're kind of in desperation mode to, repair their image, I guess, after letting a guy like Saquon go, which would leave you, if Cam Ward goes number 1, and Cleveland takes Carter, that leaves you with Travis Hunter. And if someone like him is on the board after we just talked about them having nothing for an answer at the wide receiver position, I think they would have a hard time. I certainly would, but I think they would have a hard time passing up on someone as explosive as he is when this offense lacks explosiveness. And there really isn't anybody else in the draft that can give you the explosiveness that Hunter can. There are some good edge rushers. There are some good, additional wide receivers later on in the draft. But I'm just not convinced that we're going to have to trade back. I think, like I said, there's going to be a high likelihood that one of the two is going to be available. And as you guys said, there's not a whole lot of options after 4 in terms of talent like those two. So if he's available, I can't see them trading back.
Yeah, I think if Hunt's is there, they take him. I think if Carter's there, there's a over 50% chance that they take him. So, and I think, like you said, there's a really good shot that one of the two is there as of right now, because I think Cam Ward is locked to go number 1, whether that's to Tennessee or maybe to New York. And then I think Cleveland really could take a quarterback. There's talk, apparently the Browns are having their first ever watch party for the draft. And so the conversation was like, you don't have a watch party to draft like Abdul Qadir. Like, no offense. I mean, Abdul Qadir is a phenomenal player, but like the argument was if you're going to have a draft party, it's because you're taking a quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just to piggyback off that. Let's say that the Tennessee Titans do. Let's say the Giants are like, hey, we're not confident Cleveland's passing on a QB. Let's say Tennessee pulls the trigger, trades up from 3 to 1 because they're like, we want the quarterback, we want Cam Ward. And Tennessee knows they're like, well, it's Carter or Hunter, so we're going to get one of them if we move back to 3 because nobody trades up unless you're doing a quarterback. If you're Cleveland and Cam Ward goes number 1 and your watch party is because you want to take a quarterback, are you really taking Shedeur Sanders number 2 overall?
I mean, they
are pretty dumb. I get that.
Yeah, of all the dumb teams, they're certainly up there too. So
I don't know. I mean, like, we'll see things play out. I don't personally believe that they should. I think Sanders is a good prospect. I think he's not my QB1 and he's not my QB2. So I'll just put it that way. I think he's a good prospect, but not that worthy. But I mean, we've seen time and time again, teams get desperate for a quarterback. And that's really what it comes down to. But all right, I do want to finish this up because we're going to have plenty of Patriots talk over the next couple weeks. Finish this up with state your take. I'll go last. You guys ready for yours?
Yeah, I'll go. I already kind of set the stage for it, but Sox are going to win the AL East. Yanks are decimated with injuries. Stanton's out for a bit. I don't even know if it's been posted how long he's going to be out, but his elbows are both shot.
Does he have elbows anymore?
I don't know. Probably not.
It's just non-existent anymore.
Just forearm to shoulders. Garrett Cole's obviously out for the year. You said Clark Schmidt has a shoulder injury. They're older. Judge isn't getting any younger. Volpe is not who they think he is, and neither is Jason Dominguez, I don't think. So I think they're going to have a major World Series hangover, which leaves the door wide open for the Sox to go get it. Not convinced they're going to have 110 wins or whatever Lucy said earlier, but definitely in the running for what Sam Kennedy was aiming for in terms of 95 wins in the division, especially with these additions you made and the field really getting worse across the board.
All right, I like it. I mean, we're certainly all on the same page where I think that's in the realm of possibility and hoping for it. Ben, how about you?
So mine's food related. I don't know how I got on some social media algorithm and I see these short clip videos of blindly ranking foods 1 through 5 without knowing what the next one is. And I saw one today, and I will say that the greatest food item that begins with the letter C, the best food item beginning with the letter C is a cheeseburger.
It's the first one that came to mind for me, so I haven't done much thinking, but
So you figure you've got cake, cookies, chicken wings, cannolis, cheese, cheese in general. But yeah, for me, is the greatest food that starts the letter C is a cheeseburger.
I guess I'm on board with that too.
I feel like cheese is so versatile, but I don't know. Like, you don't just eating cheese. No,
I do.
Yeah,
I mean, I do. Like, I have cheese and crackers and stuff like that. But
I did that. I did that. Say I got home from work and I was hungry. I had a cheese stick for a snack.
Cheese sticks are good.
But in terms of like an actual like meal or like
no, just food item.
No, but my wife makes a banging cheese board that can fill you up quickly.
Wait. You said cheesecake.
You said cheese bread.
Cheese board. Cheesecake though is fire. But
board.
Cheesecake is the best food that starts with C.
That I can get on board with too. Also,
cheesecake's the best dessert. That's not. Is that cheesecake?
It sure is.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. Dude, cheesecake is. I put it on as a poll. Like my buddies and I were talking about yesterday. It is the best dessert. That's not even going to be my statement take because I don't even think it's a state. It's a take whatsoever.
It's a statement of fact.
Yeah, there is not a cheesecake that I have encountered that I have not enjoyed.
Yeah, they're all phenomenal. They're all rich. They're all creamy. They. Oh God, I might take a ride to Burlington.
I'll give you a second cheesecake record.
What is the best cheesecake topping?
Oh,
I mean, just a fresh strawberry cheesecake is phenomenal with the strawberry, like melted strawberry on top.
I like a nice raspberry cheesecake with espresso martini for dinner or dessert. I should say at a restaurant that
an Oreo or a peanut butter.
Ooh. I was gonna say mine's the raspberry because I like the tart.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get the the cheesecake is obviously sweet, the raspberry's tart. Like I like the combination there.
Oh yeah.
The one I have is it's a cherry, which is
cherry's good too.
I'm not a big cherry guy.
It's good, but I mean I just grabbed a thing at Market Basket and it was just like it was like a $4 slice of cheesecake.
Espresso martini and the cheesecake hits every single time.
Fun fact, I have never had an espresso martini.
Never had a espresso martini?
I've never had my own. I've tried it. I'm not a big coffee guy. Like I'm not.
Yeah, no. As I get older, I can't really have them at like dessert anymore because they'll just be up all night. But when I was like younger in college and stuff, and right afterwards,
Zach pulled an all nighter. He had 3 espresso martinis an hour ago.
Espresso martinis are supposed to be something you have more as you get older because they're a little bit more classy.
Classy, but then you're up
like Red Bull vodka
in the morning. Yeah. You go from Red Bull vodkas to espresso martinis as you get older and more sophisticated.
Yeah. All right. I'll finish up with mine, and it's Patriots related. And it's that Brandon Ayuk will be a Patriot by April 1st.
Oh,
let's go.
He is due, I think it's like a $20-something million bonus
23
on April 1st. I think that the 49ers are unloading. I don't think that they want them there. I think that they're just holding out for the best situation. I think Pittsburgh is no longer an option for him. I think that he looks at New England and says, all right, like they got a highly reputable coach in Vrabel. They got a quarterback now. Like I'm not really wanted here in San Francisco. I want out. And he signs off. He becomes a Patriot, and the Patriots finally land what is a pretty legitimate wide receiver one, even if he has to miss, the first maybe 4 or 6 weeks of the season.
What does it take to get him? Do you think they do that?
Why is he missing the first 4 to 6 weeks of the season?
I mean, he tore his ACL in like.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Forgot.
So like he could be back week 1. Like we'll see how the recovery is, but I guess there's a chance that he misses maybe the first month or so of the season. But yeah, I think that it could be a 3rd round pick. I think that maybe number 69 is a pick that is very possible for him.
Nice.
It's another year older.
The nicest pick.
The nicest pick.
Yes, the nicest pick coming off the nicest episode last week.
No slight to Lucy.
Nope. All right, yeah. So that will be mine. April 1st, so we're about 12-ish, 13 days away. We will be talking about Brandon Ayuk as a Patriot. So, all right, boys. Any final words, thoughts, queries?
No. Go
I
Pat.
like
Go
your
Pat.
pick, though. It said we predicted Bregman for 17 weeks in a row, so we can only do for we're due for
Yeah,
Ayuk
we
now.
get.
That's true.
Yep.
Well,
Hey, we got all summer to predict Ayuk.
Yeah, we got to speak it into existence, and we got
If
a
it doesn't
lot of,
happen by April 1st, I'm going to start saying, well, after they draft someone, it's going to happen.
yeah, we got a lot of
They're
runway
saying
to
next
play
week
with, too.
maybe we'll know what happened with Ayuk, and then
After they draft
eventually
Ted,
it has to happen,
Ted
right?
McMillan,
Yeah.
after they draft Ted, they're going to trade Ayuk. All right, boys. Until next week, I'm going to Florida, leaving at 5 a.m. So it'll be a nice little getaway.
Oh, yeah.
Doing a couple golfing rounds, visiting some family.
You don't have kids when you have a 5 a.m. flight.
Yeah, 5. No. I'm getting up at 5 a.m. Excuse me. I'm leaving my house at 5 a.m. Yeah, I got a 7 something flight. I forget exactly, but
yeah.
All right. Until next week, we'll raise the banner. Goodbye.
Good night.